This is another sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. How do you say, "We are wise, and the law of the Lord is with us"? Yes, certainly in vain made he it. The pen of the scribes is in vain. 9. The wise men are ashamed. They are dismayed and taken. Yes, they have rejected the word of the Lord of the light. And what wisdom is in them? 10. Therefore will I give their wives unto others, and their fields to them that shall inherit them. For every one from the least even unto the greatest is given to covetousness and greediness. From the prophet even unto the priest, every one deals falsely. Stock market falling. Growing concerns about a slowdown in China shook markets around the world on Friday, driving the U.S. stock market to its biggest drop in nearly 4 years. The rout started in Asia and quickly spread to Europe, battering major markets in Germany and France. In the United States, the selling started early and never let up. Investors ditched beaten-down oil companies, as well as Netflix, Apple, and other technology companies. Oil plunged below $40 a barrel for the first time since the financial crisis, and government bonds rallied as investors raced into hiding spots. The Standard & Poor's 500 index lost 5.8% for the week, its worst weekly slump since 2011. The Standard & Poor's 500 index dropped 64.84 points, or 3.2%, to close at 1,970.89. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 530.94 points, or 3.1%, to 16,459.75. The Nasdaq slid 171.45 points, or 3.5%, to 4,706.04. The company said in a statement, the hackers should be judged, not Ashley Madison and its roughly 39 million customers. The hackers have accused the company of filling the site with fake profiles and collecting fees for wiping profiles that were never truly deleted. Yes, everything is connected, and everything is numbered. This also might possibly coincide with the stock market crash. In other words, God is watching. Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 11. For they have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. 12. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? No, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. Therefore shall they fall among them that fall, and the time of their visitation they shall be cast down, saith the Lord God Almighty. 13. I will surely consume them, saith the Lord. There shall be no grapes on the vine, nor figs on the fig tree, and the leaf shall fade, and the things that I have given them shall pass away from them. Yes, it's time for prophecy to be fulfilled, because it's about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. And that should be a very important question to ask.
Hello, this is Kevin Clarkson with Prophecy in the News. We're coming to you today with a great show, and our guest is Pastor and Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. And Jonathan is a Messianic. I don't know that you use that term. I haven't heard you,
Sure.
but I would call you such.
Mm-hmm.
And you're well known for your book, The Harbinger, and just out at this time, The Mystery of the Shemitah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've been discussing. And we are going to pick up kind of where we left off in our last discussion. We had talked about your first book, The Harbinger,
Yes.
and the judgment of God on America.
Mm-hmm.
And you had observed that America was in a unique role among the nations today because we began really at the presidential inauguration of George Washington in New York City at Wall Street at Ground Zero,
Ground Zero.
on our knees in prayer with the president and with the Congress.
Yes.
And as they inaugurated, they cried out to God that He might bless this nation, that He
Yes.
might see fit to prosper this nation,
Yes.
and prayed that they would stay on course with Him.
Yes. And that was the same day, we didn't mention this, that Washington gave a prophetic warning. And the warning was that, in effect, if America ever turns away from God, the blessings of heaven will be removed from the land. I mean, and that warning, that was given on the day where they prayed at the place which would become Ground Zero. And so we are watching America turn from God, and we're watching the blessings being removed. Which is also the warning of the Shemitah. The Shemitah is saying to any nation, to Israel, but now to us, that if your blessings are all from God, but if you turn from God and despise God and defy God and go against His ways, those blessings will not remain, and they will be removed from the land.
And you know, to help everybody think in the biblical terms, that judgment's not only on our finances, that's an obvious thing. We're in a horrible economy, really, and we have been since 2008, and we can talk about that. But it's a judgment on our families as well. We've seen such family disintegration. We've seen absent fathers. Even as you and I are talking this week, and I certainly believe in discipline and correction of children, but they're making a lot about men, professional athletes that are abusing their wives domestically and even their children too harshly. And we're seeing the disintegration of families, fathers leaving, poverty of single mothers, and now a redefinition of marriage itself.
And major things here. I mean, so, you know, when you look at the fall of Israel, they started calling evil what was evil good, and what was good evil.
Isaiah 5:21.
Yeah. And they also they were lifting up their children as sacrifices, you know, and they were promoting immorality, and they were driving God out of their lives. Well, we're watching this in America, calling evil good and good evil. We have not lifted up thousands of children on the altars. We've killed millions of children in
over
abortion.
52 million, Jonathan.
Yeah. So and now the redefinition of something as basic as marriage, the biblical definition, major points of thresholds.
This is the first in history.
Yeah.
This has never been done.
Yeah, and this is, we were speaking before, but this is the same period of time that the Lord led me for the Harbinger to come out, and I believe because we were at a tipping point, and God warns before He judges, but we're getting closer to that moment of judgment.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's all these things are converging, and that's what the mystery of the Shemitah is. The exact timing of these things.
Well, tell me, if we can, about the mystery of the sevens. We touched on that. It was mentioned once by you, but I'm not sure we followed that very far.
Yeah. Well, first of all, for those who don't know, a quick thing is the Shemitah is the seventh year. Every seventh year was a Sabbath year, which was a blessing, rest and all. But it turned into a judgment on Israel when they turned away from God. So the Shemitah is this key of God's timing, and it's even linked to, well, as we saw last time.
Yes.
It lies behind everything from Wall Street to the economy to the exact dates. We spoke about the mystery of sevens. At the last two Shemitahs, which are the seventh year, you have the greatest crashes in American history happening on the exact biblical day both times, you know, and you have the fingerprint of, you know, it's all about seven. Everything is seven. You have 7% of Wall Street wiped out in 2001, 7% in 2008. You have 777 is the number of points wiped out on the day of the Shemitah, of the day of sevens. And then if you take that, I'll just slightly more. If you take that moment of 777 Wall Street on the peak of the seventh year Shemitah, and you go back 7 biblical years, first it takes you to the other crash. You mean down to the seconds. It takes you to the crash of 2001 on the Shemitah, on the day of the Shemitah. So you have down to the exact 4 o'clock. Go back then 7 days. It takes you, and 7 hours, takes you to 9 o'clock on September 11th, the time of the attack of 9/11. So the mystery of sevens, which in the Bible, the Shemitah determines the timing of everything. And so literally it determines the timing down to the seconds of the greatest, most calamitous events of the last over 10 years. I mean, exactly. And now we are, one of the things why we're talking about this, we are heading to the next one, and what's going to happen. And there are exact dates, and we do need to be prepared. And it's not just, as you said, not just the financial realm, it's everything, the rise and fall of nations in America.
Well, as I think about the rise of America, we didn't talk last time, but I read The Harbinger, and when they prayed on Wall Street at Ground Zero, they were at a little church building that comes into play with the prophecy in Isaiah and with the destruction. Could you comment on what that meant?
Yeah, on the day of 9/11, the ancient principle that the calamity returns to the same ground where the nation is dedicated to God. So that was Ground Zero. That's where we were dedicated to God. And then on that day, all the buildings around Wall Street are destroyed, ruined, except one is protected. The only one that's protected is the little stone chapel where they prayed and dedicated America to God that day. And the reason why it's protected is because there was an object that took all the force of 9/11 and saved the church. Well, the object was one of the 9 harbingers, was the sycamore, was one of the 9 harbingers. So the point of the harbinger, and the harbingers, is not to condemn a nation to judgment, it's to wake a nation from judgment. It's to save a nation from judgment. And even on the day of 9/11, a shock wave goes forth from the ground of 9/11, the consecration ground, Ground Zero, and strikes Federal Hall, the place where Washington was sworn in and gave the prophetic warning of what would happen if we ever turn away from God, puts a crack in the foundation.
Oh my.
So I mean, these things are so exact, and I mean that, look, with that, those things are so exact with, the exact spot, but then God is so exact, the Shemitah goes to the exact timing. So this is giving you the place. That is giving you, the Shemitah is giving you the timing exactly. So God is so precise.
That's amazing.
And there's a mystery. One of the mysteries which I don't always get into, but it's in the book. It's called the mystery of the towers. And now this is a whole other realm, but it's linked to Shemitah. That is this. There's a mystery in the Bible in that towers are linked to greatness and power, and could be pride from the very beginning. From Babel, you have it. But in Hebrew, the word for tower is gadal or migdal. It's linked to the word gadal, which means greatness or pride. So there's a mystery here that the rising of great towers is linked to the rise of nations or great powers. Now, interesting thing. In 1870, America erects the first skyscraper in the world, becomes the highest non-church tower in the world. America, for the first time, surpasses the old world, Europe. The next year, America becomes the strongest economic power on earth. The tower marks the beginning of the rise. From that moment on, Kevin, all the great towers in the world, or the highest towers, are going to come from America. It's going to get higher and higher. America's going to get higher and higher. It's going to go to the Empire State Building, as we go higher and higher and higher. And it's interesting because you have 4 of the great highest towers. You have this flurry of high towers in the year 1930 and 1931, which is the year of the Shemitah. And the Empire State Building is finished in the year of the Shemitah. Now the Shemitah, here's the Shemitah actually literally means to fall or to collapse.
That's the meaning of the word.
Release and fall and collapse. It's about humbling. A nation, comes back to God. Towers are about, hey, look how high and great we were going. Well, there's going to be this mystery here. It's going to come to a head. Get to 1945, America reaches its peak, the global power of the world, superpower. That year, a tower is conceived on that year. The tower that's conceived is the World Trade Center. On the moment of it's going to be America's glory. It's going to represent it. That tower begins its construction in 1966. That's the year of the Shemitah.
1966.
Yeah. And then it takes 7 years. It's the cycle of the Shemitah. It's finished in 1973, the year of the Shemitah, the World Trade Center. It is destroyed in 2001, the year of the Shemitah. And in fact,